Hey everyone, this is Hanney. Today we are going to address the Richard Dawkins situation one more time, but this time around I've got a guest who's has been sort of burnt by the same sort of fire one way or another some time ago, and today we want to reflect on the situation and sort of dissect it a little bit deeper, just to see if there's something's been missed between the lines. Um, Hello, David. How are you?
I'm well, Hanney. Thanks for having me back on the show. It's good to be here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Just before I start the conversation, I was just wondering if I know your channel has been sort of flourishing in the last few weeks, and you've added some new videos. And can you tell us a little bit more about any progress in that regard?
Well, I have been putting a lot of thought in my videos, and the things that I want to do when I do my videos, I want to do something that's different from what everybody else is saying. I want to make points that people aren't also making. So I try to make fewer videos, but maybe more poignant videos. And the last video I made is something that I've really been working on for a little while. And it talks about the need for Ashkenazi Jews, which is a race that's not white, which I am. I'm 100% Ashkenazi Jew. And I maintain now, because after I've thought about it for a while, that we're not a white race, and that we shouldn't be lumped in with white people. And that the reason that we shouldn't be lumped in with white people is because we are a downtrodden minority. We've been downtrodden more than every other race, save maybe the Native Americans, over the course of millennia. We've been downtrodden. We've been beaten down. We are a race that was formed by anti-Semitism. Okay, formed man-made race. We get our own diseases. We have our own traits, and we succeed in the meritocracy despite all of that. And the point that I wanted to make, is that people are bashing Asians, and people are bashing Asians because Asians are the rise in Asian hate is a result of the fact that the Asians are a downtrodden minority that's succeeding in the meritocracy, and they are widely considered to be the one-off. Okay, the one race that's not being oppressed by the white race, and it's not true. There's a few different races actually that are succeeding in the meritocracy, and they are not being counted. And Ashkenazi Jews is one of them. People who look like me and Jeff Goldblum and Sarah Silverman and David Blaine, and we all look alike. Yes, we do. We all get, I could be Sarah Silverman's twin, right? I really could. I could be her twin. We're not related at all. We have the same last name. We look alike, but or at least sibling, right? But the point is that I was making with that video is that we need to take some of the heat off of the Asian community. We need to change the narrative a little bit, that the Asians are not a one-off, that the Asians are not the exception to the rule, and that there's another race that y'all are calling white, that we call white. We have been calling white, but we're not white, okay? If you go to a white supremacy rally, I won't be let in, okay? And here's a note, okay? I do not pass for white for anyone who's anti-Semitic. Anybody who cares about being anybody who's anti-Semitic, I don't pass for white. I don't pass for non-Jewish, okay? I don't pass for non-Ashkenazi. So we have to realize we have to fight this fight from a few different angles. And as we fight critical race theory, we have to fight it from a few different angles. And I'm proposing that one of those angles is to highlight the fact that it's not whites, Latinos, blacks, and whites are oppressing everybody except the Asians and their one-offs, but that it's actually a plethora of different races, Indians, Ashkenazi Jews, doing well in the meritocracy. And we're not being oppressed, or at least we're not being oppressed by the systemic racism that's being claimed. And it's important to address that because it pokes holes in the lie that America is a racist country, or that our system is somehow holding down people of color when it's not. If it was, I'd be right there fighting the fight, right? And we have to make that clear. If there is systemic racism anywhere in this country, fuck systemic racism, fuck it and kill it, and let's find it and kill it. Okay. But if it's not there, let's not pretend it is. Okay. If there's a person using their position, to further a racist cause, fire them within the policies that already exist. This narrative that we're seeing rise from the left, which is being championed by the people at the American Humanist Association, by the way, says that we're in this horrible racist country, and it's pushing this narrative of oppression, this narrative of persecution, this narrative that nothing has changed since the 60s, and this narrative that all inequity is caused by white oppression. All inequity is caused by oppression. And that none of the inequity, none of the uneven performance or lacking performance of the African American community is due to the African American community itself, which is laughable because the African American community has some fucked up features about it. You know, they coddle they put their criminals up on the walls. They call them victims. They tell their children that, or some tell their children that education is race treason. It's ridiculous, and the amount of out of wedlock birth is crazy. Okay, all of this is contributing to the African American population's poor performance in our society, and nobody's addressing that. Everybody's saying that the inequity is completely due to oppression. So that's going to put us. So what we're doing, this is not why we're on the show, but what we're doing is we're fighting the wrong fight. Okay, we're all in this together. We're all trying to stop poor people from being poor. Okay, and we want everybody to have this fairness. Okay, we all hate racism, but to blame racism when it's not racism won't solve the real problem. And that will affect more Black lives. That will kill more Black human beings. Okay. And when I say Black lives of Black human beings, I care, I'll scream it from the rooftops. I care way more for the innocents than I do for the guilty. Okay. I don't care. I just don't care if another felon commits another felony and gets roughed up or even killed by cops in the act of committing yet another felony. I don't care. It doesn't bother me a bit. Okay. It just doesn't. Okay. Felons are not victims. Felons are not victims. They're felons. And you take a risk of dying by cop if you commit a felony. And what I care about, and what we all should care about, are the victims of those felons. Okay, those people are the lives that matter. Those children in their cribs, shot by bullets. Those are the Black lives that really matter. The lives, it doesn't matter what color they are. The lives that are committing felons are not the lives that matter. And I feel like we're a society that has a lot of problems in it, and we're not even keeping our eye on the ball. We're not even looking at the problem and saying, okay, well, let's look at the numbers, set goals. How are we going to fix these numbers? How are we going to solve this problem? We want to bring X down by Y% over X period of time. How are we going to achieve that goal? That's how you solve a problem. This is a problem that will never be solved because they are not solving the problem. Black on Black violence is 0% white oppression. It's 100% the problem of the African American community, as opposed to the Black race, which is different. The Black race, people come to this country from a whole bunch of different African countries, and they do great. This is about the African American community. How do we get on this? You just said, "What am I doing recently?"
And no, that's right. I mean, it's an interesting segue because David, I mean, races is gonna.
I got to do more videos.
Yeah, but let me just test my my Jewish knowledge with you. Being Ashkenazi Jew, you see that this is how uh, the word race is a completely human construct. Because if we go to science, there's only one race. It's Homo
Right,
sapiens.
of course.
We're all Homo sapiens. We're all out of Africa.
Of course.
We're all Africans in one way or another at some point. But we have ethnic groups that evolved in different geographical areas because of different weather conditions. But even within the Jewish community, the Ashkenazi Jews are the fairest of all the Jews, because you've got the Sephardim, obviously a little bit darker, and then you've got the Flaja, the Ethiopian Jews, who are even darker.
Well, remember, so I want to separate this out. Okay, it's important because the Ashkenazi Jewish race, my race, is a stupidly named race. Okay, my race is a stupidly named race. My race is named Ashkenazi Jew. And it's a stupid name for a race because you can be an atheist Ashkenazi Jew. You can be a Christian Ashkenazi Jew. You can be any kind of Ashkenazi Jew you want. It's very stupid to name a race after a religion, which is exactly what happened, which is exactly why all this confusion has happened, which is why everybody's having all this fight. I think I've got it figured out, though, okay? The super secret is the Ashkenazi Jewish race is a stupidly named race, okay? And you can be, and that's separate from the Jewish religion. And that's why the Ashkenazi Jews, like me, have our own culture, because culture comes from location, comes from race, or race comes from location. And then you have these other Jews, the Sephardim, which are from other areas of the world, but they're not an independent race, to my knowledge. To my knowledge, Ashkenazi Jew is a race as determined by, is a non-white race, as determined by the people at 23andMe, who I'm calling objective. And so that's the, and I want to make it clear, Hanney, I'm not trying to claim any sort of victimhood. Okay, I'm not trying to claim, oh, poor me, my people went through the Holocaust and now I'm oppressed. That's not it. And I'm also not trying to claim that my ancestry, my race, is in any way superior or inferior to any others, or is in any way more valid. I'm not a person who says, yay, Ashkenazi Jews, okay? I'm just using this point, okay? This is an important point right now, and I think we should use this point. And I think that the non-white races who are succeeding in the meritocracy need to show that anyone can succeed in the meritocracy. And it's not because we're smarter than everyone else. We're not. I don't believe that. I believe that one of the reasons that I do well is because I learned how to study. And I learned how to study because my mother made me learn how to study. And I remember, when I was in high school or when I was in college, staying up late or all night, doing all-nighters, and studying real hard. I work real hard. And I think that's just because of the Ashkenazi Jewish culture in which I was raised, which was very work-centric and very work.
David, don't you agree? I mean, if somebody's been put down by somebody else for one reason or another, being sort of inferior or incompetent, you've got only two choices. You've got the choice of, well, I'm going to show you, I'm going to work extra hard. And I think the Jewish people over the years have shown the world just that, that I'm going to work doubly hard to prove myself because I'm a minority. Or the second stance is, F you, I am going to lay back and do nothing and cry over the spilt milk and milk my situation for centuries to come. Do you find that this is the two stances been taken by two different groups at the moment?
Well, I saw a video recently by Dr. Carol Swain. She is an African-American PhD who teaches at a university, and I'm not sure which university. It was on Prager University. And because it was on PragerU, a whole bunch of my lefty friends wouldn't even watch it, which is terrible when people straw man things like that. But what she said was that she was this downtrodden, poor black girl who made some bad decisions, got life off to a real good start, and then essentially started to work real hard and succeeded massively. Okay. And then she found out after she succeeded that she succeeded and got into college, and I believe it was getting into her graduate degree, where I remember her saying that she was told that she would never be able to do that, what she had already done, because of all the white oppression. And so what you say is, I think the part that I think may be relevant here is the push that I got as a child, because we had to succeed, because there were so few of us left because the Holocaust, right? So we had to succeed, we had to work, we had to try hard, and it was a very I used to put it down before because it was a very keeping up with the Goldbergs type of situation in my raising, but now I kind of see the link that they were doing, the advantage of having your kids push each other, right? Where you going to school, where you going to college, there was that keeping up with the Joneses, that almost competition with your friends, was pretty darn healthy, in retrospect, as I go back and think about it. I chided my mother sometimes because my bar mitzvah was very big. But one of the things that she made it clear in my bar mitzvah, and I went to bar mitzvah as an atheist, right?
Wow.
But one of the things that she made clear, I was an open and outed atheist. One of the things that she made clear was something that she made clear very many times, which was that my bar mitzvah would be perfect. My bar mitzvah, my part in my bar mitzvah would be flawless. And I would practice until that was flawless. And I did, and it was. And, as I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about how people, the Asians have the work ethic in the can, right? They work like crazy. That's in their culture, right? I think if we punish that, we're destroying. If we punish success in the meritocracy for fear of making the failures in the meritocracy feel bad, we're going to lose a very fundamental part, perhaps the most fundamental part of this country. I mean, and it becomes, life becomes one participation trophy. And if you think about it, communism is like one great big participation trophy, right? Everybody loses and everybody gets a trophy, a meaningless trophy. It's everybody gets, this little meaningless life. I don't know. I'm really scared, Hanney, about where things are going. I really am. And I think that's a great segue into our topic for the evening. 22 minutes in, I am now ready to talk about the topic at hand.
David, just to help you a little bit here, while we start talking about it, I'm going to share the tweets. Obviously,
you're going to share the hate? Gee, I wonder if YouTube will take you off the air because of all the hate that you're about to spew.
Oh no, they won't, because I think today's conversation is about logic. I don't think we're gonna get derogatory in any way, shape, or form. We're just gonna have a look at it together and see.
I never get derogatory. I never get derogatory.
All right, let's have a look at what
flower.
Let's have a look at what the old man said, and whether there's anything wrong. Because for the life of me, I read it, as I said to you, hundreds of times, and I can't see anything wrong. But let's have a look together. Right. Well, the first, one of the most interesting thing is the timeline, David. The first tweet was issued on the 10th of April. And it says, in 2005, 2015, Rachel Dolezal, a white chapter president of NAACP, was vilified for identifying as Black. Some men choose to identify as women. Some women choose to identify as men. You will be vilified if you deny that they literally are what they identify as. Discuss. Keyword at the very end there. Discuss. What do you think? How do you read it yourself?
I mean, this is obviously not hate, right? This is obviously something he's trying to get people to talk about. This is obviously, a scientific mind trying to get people to talk, trying to point out hypocrisy. We have one physical change here that people are pretending that sex is a spectrum when it is clearly binary. They're making up data to pretend that sex is a spectrum when it's clearly binary, so they don't have to, it's all about participation trophies, right? So they don't have to tell trans people that they're different, okay? And it's ridiculous. We need to grow up. Sex is binary, and it's okay, and you can live your life, but let's not pretend that facts are not facts. In any sense, this woman who was white racially decided that she was transracial, which is a different physical trait, which seems to be along the same lines as what he's saying. I think that's clearly the line that he's drawing. Okay, that, ladies and gentlemen, is not hate. It's not. Okay, discussion like this is not hate. Richard Dawkins is not a friend of mine anymore, but he's not a hater. He's not a terrible person. He's not a bigot. This is not hate. What is hate? What is hate and what is bigotry and what is horrible is the way that this was responded to. What AHA did, and the fact that this tweet, which said discuss at the end, he was positing something. Said discuss.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't saying clearly there's nothing hateful here. Okay, clearly there's nothing here. He's saying that, well, people who are trans are bad at all, right? He's not. But we are talking about facts here, okay? And we are allowed to discuss facts. Or at least that's what the AHA used to be about. I'm a former member of the American Humanist Association, a former very proud member of the American Humanist Association. When I was president of American Atheists, I made a real big, thing about being a member of the other organizations, and AHA was one of my favorites because I am and was a humanist always, because I care about the common good. I care about I care about advancing humanity. I care about helping people who need help. I want to be a good person. I think most people do. And I think that's what humanism is. You have this idea that we have this common good, and we're just going to call that common good, the reduction of suffering and the advancement of life a common good. We'll just call that objective. And you're going to say, okay, well, what's going to help the common good? Well, information helps the common good, right? What gives you information? Education gives you information, right? And what kind of education is the best for determining truth from fact? Well, that's skepticism. That's skepticism information. That's the looking at all the sides and trying to prove yourself wrong and failing, right? The act of skepticism is not just words. It's actually functions, okay? And it's not just a good idea. It's how we learn things, okay? Skepticism is not just a buzzword. It's how we learn. It's the act of learning. It's how we learn.
So, David, I just want to say this is very important because I want to put to you the point of view portrayed by the other side, which is they think we are missing. You and I are missing. They're saying in this tweet here, Richard Dawkins is likening the transgender saga or dilemma, and make it very similar to the Rachel Dolezal who ended up being depicted as a liar. She actually concealed her identity. She changed certain things. And by giving the same analogy, in a way, he's saying that most transgenders are psychotic and deluded, and they're not what they claim to be.
Jessica Yanov is, right? So some are. Let's just start there. Some supposed trans women are
Very
men
possibly.
who are perverted liars, who are sick people. And that's not a woman, okay? A man in a dress who's assaulting people is not a woman. A man in a dress who is trying to fake transness to assault people or to sue people or to make people, I'm sorry, I just don't see it, okay? But, and there's nuance here because, you know, if you have a person who's got gender dysphoria, of course, that's a woman, okay? I as far as I'm concerned, anybody with gender dysphoria, with real gender dysphoria, none of that rapid onset stuff, actual gender dysphoria, is a version of this gender that they feel they are. I think that the idea that we can't say some people are lying, which they are, is a form of limiting information, right?
Yes.
And it creates disinformation, and it creates a shelter for more Jessica Yanivs, and it creates a shelter for more victims to be had. Okay. And we're all doing that so that we don't have to, we're all not admitting that truth so that we don't have to have the more difficult, nuanced conversation, you know, the very difficult, nuanced conversation between cis women and trans women. Okay. When cis women want to be among cis women, do they have the right to be? Okay, that's the question. Okay, if a cis women, it's really about that. It's not about restrooms. Nobody gives a fuck about restrooms, of course. Okay, we all want you to just be you, be happy. But there's nuance in the trans women versus cis women argument, and you're going to have that argument if there's differences. I lost my train of thought. Where are I going? Where was I going?
So we're talking about the fact that the question about transgender is not black and white. There's obviously
So we have this woman. We have this woman who claims to be who claims to have race dysmorphia, for lack of a better word, right? Race dysmorphia. You know, who are we to say she doesn't? Okay, if she does, if she has race dysmorphia, I don't have the right to say no, you don't. If she's a liar, she's a liar. Okay, but I don't know enough that she's a liar. I haven't heard the argument that she's a liar. I don't have an opinion on that. To the best of my knowledge, she's the director of the NAACP, so she's not some sort of predator trying to get her jollies off by pretending to be black. She seems to be legit. And to dismiss that as, oh, that's a stupid, terrible thing, but to then insist that Jessica Yaniv is a woman because there are zero possible liars, it's ridiculous. It's mantra. It's dogma. This is what dogma looks like. This is why wokeism is a religion. Because I mean, this is dogma. It's right here. It doesn't make any sense. One level down, it doesn't make any sense. So what? And that's what Richard did, right? You can't take it one level down. If you take it one level down, that's what he did, and that's what the AHA used to freak out on him. And it's just, I mean, can we just talk about the AHA for a bit? I mean, I am so fucking ashamed of them, and American atheists jumped on the bandwagon too. What, you know? This is taking steps against civil discourse. They just took a stance against civil discourse. And this civil discourse was on a subject which on its surface seems pretty valid. Sorry. On its surface it seems pretty valid. Maybe politically incorrect. Maybe they don't like it, but that's okay. In civil discourse, you're allowed to make politically incorrect statements, politically incorrect questions. And for these organizations to do that, I mean, Look. For those of you who don't know, for those of your viewers who don't know, I used to be a part of this movement. Then the movement spat me out, and I have had all of these emotional stages since then, right? And I look at the movement and I say, "Oh, I should have done this, and I would have done this, and I would have done that." But I know that every time I have an opinion about it, that I'm colored by my emotional status. I'm colored by my experience. But every once in a while, the movement spits out something objective, right? The movement spits out something clearly objectively against everything we once stood for. And this is exactly that. And Dawkins knows it. If Dawkins doesn't care, but he knows it. But this is ridiculous. This is the American Humanist Association and American atheists taking a stand against civil discourse on their own dogma. Think about that. Think about that. Think about the history of these two organizations. These two organizations, American Atheist was formed in 1963. AHA was formed in the 1950s, I think.
1953. I'm sharing right now their statement, which starts with established in 1953. Yes,
it's ridiculous. These organizations were about civil discourse. They were about argument. They were about Madeline. To think that Madeleine O'Hair's organization is now eschewing civil discourse because of dogma. Not even big dogma. It's just a little spot. This is a little place.
David,
Richard Dawkins coming out and saying, "Yay, I'm anti-separation of church and state."
This award was given to Dawkins right on the basis of the very thing they stripped the award from because of, which is challenging status quo and asking questions. It's exactly what he's done, nothing different.
So as I look at this, and I mean, I hope that everybody sees this as a truly objective moment as I do, okay? Because again, emotions run crazy in my brain. But this is something where I can really look at and say, look, the entire movement is gone here. This is AHA and AA, okay? This is AHA and AA are so far left now that they've chewed up the CFI. And by the way, let's talk a little bit about that, because CFI has been woke up until this point, okay? I arranged for a big donation to go to CFI. And because I arranged it, they turned the money around and sent it back. A $25,000 donation, which much more to come. Now that's a lot of money. I arranged for this money to go to them. They turned it around and sent it back because I was involved. Think of how woke you have to be to turn away money. Now remember, folks, I was not guilty of anything. I'm actually innocent of all the things that they accused me of, or all the bad things that they accused me of. So, except for cheating. So, for them to turn me away was exactly what American Atheists and AHA are doing now, which was taking action based on reputation and not logic, based not on truth, based not on anything. And now that same crowd, the same crowd which once turned on me, has turned on Richard, on nothing. The same crowd that they were trying to kowtow to by protecting themselves, by not taking that money, has now turned on them completely and canceled them. And this is ridiculous. It is ridiculous for AHA and AA to turn on CFI like that. It is ridiculous for them to split the movement like that. I wonder what it's going to be like at the Secular Coalition for America. I wonder what it's going to be like at the next heads meeting or any kind of meeting. How are they going to work together like that? It's asinine for these two organizations to do that to one of their own. And it's objectively not what would happen if I was there. Yeah. And it's objectively not what would have happened at AHA when I was there. Not because I was controlling AHA, but because AHA has changed so goddamn much.
Oh, yeah.
And to sit there and watch, I mean, I'm sitting on the outside and I'm watching the remains of the movement just collapse. I'm watching them do nothing. I'm watching the AHA doesn't do anything anymore. American Atheist doesn't do anything more. Think of a thing that they've done. Pick a thing that they've done in the past 3 years. Pick a thing. Name a thing.
Hasn't been really active.
These are organizations with millions of dollars in assets and staff, and they're not doing anything anymore. They don't do anything anymore. They're just milking it because because they're not into the movement anymore, right? And that's what's happening here. The reason that these two orgs are ditching the third is because they're not interested in being a part of the movement anymore. These orgs aren't interested in the movement itself anymore. They're interested in another movement. They're interested in being woke. They're interested in being leftist. They're interested in sticking so close to a mantra that any dissent gets you excommunicated. I am so glad I'm not part of that crowd anymore. I am so glad they spat me out. I'm proud they spat me out. I really am.
Yeah,
I'm proud they spat me out.
Christopher Hitchens, he left them. He was one of the very, very early to leave the left, and after sort of finding out what they're really all about. But I'm going to invite you to read a sentence with me here because I think that tells it all in their statement, in their very own statement.
I can't read the screen.
Sorry, I'll read it out for you.
Go ahead.
Regrettably, Richard Dawkins has, over the past several years, accumulated a history of making statements that use the guise of scientific discourse to demean marginalized groups. That keyword, you remember a keyword in Richard Dawkins' tweet was discuss. A keyword for me here is the guise. They actually got into his intention. They got into his own brain to know that what Richard Dawkins, by insinuating a certain subject, he actually had a certain intention in his own head. They've got into his head.
I think, Hanney, you're really hitting the nail on the head there. And what they're doing is not just assuming that they've got their intentions, but they're assuming that they are 100% objectively right in their assumption. Okay, there's no doubt in their mind that Richard was attacking and demeaning that he meant to attack and demean minorities. And there's also no doubt in their mind that his tweets were actually attacking and demeaning minorities, as opposed to them just being wrong. Okay, and we have to remember that people can be wrong, right? So if you say, "Oh, that attacks and demeans minorities," you could be wrong in that statement. You could be wrong. You could just be full of shit. You could be wrong. Maybe it doesn't attack demean minorities. Maybe you should think about that. Okay. And nobody actually talks about that. People say, okay, if somebody says you're attacking and demeaning, you should say you're sorry right off the bat without actually saying, maybe you're full of shit and you're just trying to insert some sort of guilt trip in here or some sort of control in here, which is exactly what it is. A lot of times it's exactly what this is.
Right.
That's exactly what this is. He attacked and demeaned. He didn't attack and demean anyone. Look, I am no friend of Richard. Okay. I'm not happy with I'm not happy with him personally, but he's not a racist. He's not a bigot. He's not hateful. He's not doing anything wrong. This is nothing.
David, you won his award. Didn't you win one of his awards?
I did win his award. I won the Richard Dawkins Award in 2017.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's asinine. It's asinine that the movement would do this to him and to themselves. Think about this. Okay. Look, Richard Dawkins, I'm a smart guy. You're a smart guy. We've all got our accomplishments. Richard Dawkins changed science with his brain. Okay. He's not one of us intellectually. Okay. He's one of them intellectually. He's one of the very, very few, very, very special people in this world that have changed science with his brain. And, I'm not idolizing him and I'm not putting him up on some sort of a moral pedestal. I'm putting him up on the intellectual pedestal that he belongs on. Okay. And I'm putting him up on the public relations pedestal that he belongs on. He's a flawed human being. He and I disagree, but to say that we're just going to expel him from the movement you are expelling an asset from the movement. You are, and what is CFI going to do now? How is CFI going to work with AA or AHA now? Just think about that stupid ass fucking thing that they just did.
It's causing a rift.
How fucking moronic it is for AA and AHA to do a public disassociation with Richard Dawkins and CFI over a tweet like this. Imagine how, and the only reason they're doing it is because they don't care. And they don't care because they've left the movement. They're no longer movement centric. They're now leaving the movement. It's not important to them anymore. You know, I'll tell you something, Hanney. I did a Google search for the phrase atheist voting bloc in quotes. And I did it for the year 2020 during our most important election in recent history. No entries. Nobody from so we got this entire atheist movement. Everybody's sitting home. Okay. Everybody's earning a salary. And nobody made a press release about the atheist voting bloc. Think about that. Think about how much the atheist movement has left the movement. Think about how much it's changed since the mid 2010s. It's crazy.
Not much.
I mean, it's crazy. It's a completely different movement. I mean, right now when we've got Atheists for Liberty and Atheist Alliance International and Atheist Republic. Okay, these are three organizations doing real good work, and they're not woke. Atheists for Liberty. I'm part of on the advisory board for Atheists for Liberty. Thomas Sheedy, a really brilliant guy, young guy, somebody you should all know. Hanney, if you hadn't had Thomas on your show yet, you should have him on your show.
Sure.
He is a person of note that people will be paying attention, should be paying attention to. And they're doing old school atheist activism, catering to the left, but mostly the center and the right. And just pulling everybody out who wants to be in the big tent of atheism. Atheist Alliance International, saving lives. Atheist Republic, saving lives. Good stuff. Real atheist activism. And if there are any people out there who are interested in atheist activism, you should support those organizations. Atheist Republic, Atheist Alliance International, and my friend Thomas over at Atheists for Liberty, which is a Republican and centrist organization. That's going to be the future of the atheist movement. I think that's the future of the atheist movement. I think the atheist movement as it was no longer exists. I think this is objective evidence of that. And I think the split in the movement that it's going to cause is going to last a very long time. A very long time.
I think, of course, the rift between the left leaning and the left leaning and the right leaning atheists. I think there's going to be a rift, and it's going to be a huge conversation. I'm going to invite you to one more piece of evidence that I've sort of been gathering together. So the statement by AHA was released on the 19th of April. If you recall, Richard Dawkins' first tweet was on the 10th of April. And I'm going to share the screen one more time because there was a follow-up tweet from Richard Dawkins, because that was not the end of the story. He actually clarified his position even further. And he said on the 13th of April, I do not intend to disparage trans people. I see that my academic discuss question has been misconstrued, and as such, I deplore this. It was also not my intent to ally in any way with the Republican bigots in US now exploiting this issue. So the guy has actually come back and clarified his situation even further.
He didn't need to do that.
He didn't need to, but on the 13th of April. So 6 days clear of the panel's decision. Have they overlooked this? I mean,
have they what?
Have they overlooked this? I mean, isn't that clear evidence that the guy is not?
They don't care. It's not important, Hanney. It's the facts aren't relevant here. Okay, this wasn't about any sort of fact. If it was about fact, then they wouldn't have done anything in the first place, because the tweet on its face wasn't hateful. Okay. And the fact that he felt that he had to come out and say, no, please don't hate me. That must have felt really bad for him. And it must have felt really bad for Robin to make him do that. After they'd been so woke after they'd been so woke in the past. So I feel for him on that, but he shouldn't have to apologize. It was not a hateful tweet. The fact that he had to shows the strength of wokeism, and frankly, it kind of shows his commitment to the movement. Maybe I'm being too charitable, but it kind of shows his commitment to say, all right, I apologize. Didn't mean to do anything. Just don't hate me. That kind of shows me something movementy, but it was a useless thing. You never apologize. You never clarify because you're guilty anyways. He will never be forgiven. He can never be forgiven. See, this is the situation that they're in now. Okay. AHA and AA can never work with CFI again. Okay. If they do, their woke members will rage. You're forgiving Richard for that quote. And of course, the fact that he clarified, the fact that the quote is bullshit in the first place won't matter. AHA and AA can never work with CFI again. It's asinine that they did this. It's bang your head on the desk stupid that they did this. It's going to permanently damage the movement. I mean, this is going to cause this. Well, how are they going to coordinate? How are they going to coordinate? Just moving forward, just think about this now. Let's say they want to have a convention. Well, Richard can't come, right? If Richard comes, that's no thing. Richard means thousands of people come because he's an actual superstar who has actual draw because he actually changed signs. But he's not coming anymore. He can't come. But the reverse is true too. So if CFI has an event, nobody from American Atheists or the American Humanist Association can go. They can't speak. They can't attend. If they have a joint, they can't even have a joint. Are they going to be able to file joint amicus curiae briefs? This is an asinine thing that they've done, and it shows. It shows a level of amateur behavior. It shows a level of completely not understanding the concept of what you're doing. I think the leaders of both of those organizations and the boards of both of those organizations should be ashamed of themselves for what they've done. This is asinine. This is so blatantly stupid. It's so blatantly, it's permanent, long term at least, and it does nothing. It fixes nothing. Cures nothing.
So, on the organizational level, we can see there is a rift already. But what I've observed as well over the last few days with extreme and utter interest is the reaction and the feedback from prominent atheists. And some of them I had an argument with. Just to give you an idea, I went on Matt Dillahunty's page and actually had a fight with him. Because the way he treated the situation was quite disrespectful to me.
No.
He shared the it was like beyond. We know that Matt can be a little bit standoffish, but this was another level.
It's gonna be fun.
And it was another level, David. He basically what he did. He shared the decision, and he had one word post: good. That Richard Dawkins expelled. Good. And I went in there, and I had put a post that had 300 likes, and the whole thing disappeared after a couple of days, on the back of the amount of attack that Matt received from people, because the way he shared a stage with Richard Dawkins, he appeared with him several times. He didn't even say, "Well, I'm not sure why would Richard say that. Let me find out," for example.
Yeah.
He was so happy that this has happened so he can cancel the dude. You know, he's gone. He's
Yeah.
gone. And
Makes you
people
feel
like
powerful.
Friendly Atheist, Meta, and all these sort of woke atheists, who are, as soon as this happened, did not even contemplate the opportunity to say, you know what, let's bring Richard Dawkins on the show. Let's have a chat to the guy. That didn't happen.
Horrible. That would be horrible. Can you imagine? Oh my goodness. Actually having a discussion with somebody who's been canceled? That would be terrible. It's asinine, Hanney. And it's the fact that these folks would never have anybody on, would never, they just, the pig pile. I've seen the pig pile now from the inside and the outside. I feel bad for him. I really do. It's a painful thing to go through. Okay. Even though he's, you know, in a different stage of life and he's, you know, in a different situation, I'm sure it's still painful to have a whole bunch of people hate on you for shit you didn't do. Okay. For shit you didn't do. Okay. And to have to kiss ass so that you can try and maintain your woke donors while your woke people just throw shit at you, and they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. And it's exactly what I went through, a different angle, right? I was part of it. They spat me out. It was painful. They hate me forever. It doesn't matter what the facts are. Same shit, different white guy or Asian or in my case, Ashkenazi Jewish guy, whitish guy. It's this it's a different world, Hanney, and it's a different movement. And you know, this old movement that I used to be part of has now become this wokest anti-skepticism. I mean, anti-civil discourse, how can they become anti-civil discourse? How can they become anti-civil discourse? That's crazy stuff. Okay, that's
against the very thing they stand for. Against the very thing.
It's like the KKK electing a black guy president. It's not what we're supposed to do. Okay, it's the opposite of what we stand for. And so,
yeah.
I mean, look, I strongly suspect that the amount of donations to both of these organizations has completely bottomed out. Okay, I strongly hope so. I'll just say it. I hope so, because they're not doing anything. But what I hope is that, I mean, I'm still here, right? I'm still part of this movement. You're still having me on the podcast. People are still talking to me, and I'm still, and I'm, you know, dipping my toes back in over at Atheists for Liberty and at Atheist Alliance International. And, you know, we're going to try, hopefully, these folks, I'm not going to lead. These folks are going to do it. But to try and reassemble an atheist movement in this country that cares about atheism, that cares about the separation of church and state, that cares about atheist representation in Congress. You remember, you know, there was this president once upon a time. His name was Obama. And when President Obama was elected the first time, in his opening speech, he acknowledged non-believers for the first time. It was a major victory, a major step forward. Biden said God 7 times. Didn't mention us at all. Nobody's mentioning us at all. Nobody's saying a darn thing about us at all anymore. Think about that. Think about the fact that these 2 organizations, these 3 organizations, they're worth millions and millions of dollars. They have millions and millions in assets. Okay? Millions and millions and millions in assets, the 3 of them together. What have they done? They have people on the staff full time. What has been accomplished? Name a thing. Name a thing that the atheist movement has done for atheism in the past 3 years.
It's been a while. I mean,
name a thing. Name a good lawsuit. Name a protest. Name a case. Name an activity.
I think, David, between 2001 about 2013, there was so much hyping up, and there was so much interest, and it was the world was watching. Yeah. And just suddenly over the last 7 years or so, the whole thing became so politically correct. I mean, I'm going to pose to you a question because that is the one that drives me nuts.
Wow.
Let's take homosexuality, for example.
Okay.
Can you be nice to the folks and understand their liberty to do whatever they want to do with their life without hurting anyone, while still scientifically and psychologically assess the situation of what gives rise to homosexuality? Well, why does it happen?
I'm sure you can. Of course you can.
Yeah, but now you can't, apparently, because
No, of course it's an assault.
They're
that kind of
conflating
research is an assault.
Yes, they're thinking you're by doing so, or by posing the question, you're questioning the identity of a homosexual or a transgender person.
They're assuming assuming your intent, and assuming they're 100% right with their assumption, and assuming that you're 100% bad for going after it. You're doing some research on something that may be interesting, may be ususeful. Therefore, you're a bigot and a hater.
Yeah. If I was a transgender or homosexual, I would have.
So here's the other thing. Here's the other thing, Hanney, and this is the part that gets me scared. Maybe I'm watching a little too much Tim Pool, but he had on a chart a couple of weeks ago now, which showed that about 95% of Republicans opposed violence to cure an ill, but only 80% of liberals did. And so here's the thing. I have been told that somebody has been told, another podcaster has told me that they were told that having me on their podcast helps kill Black children. Okay. That's believed by a certain percentage of people. And a certain percentage of those people think violence is okay. About 20%. And so it's an interesting thing, because you take a point, you make a point, a good, valid point that's not made in hate, that's not made in judgment, that's just simply made that counters that by the way, may counter a falsehood on the left, i.e. the spectrum of sex. And you're called a hater outright, period, and expelled. There's no coming back from a hole like that. Okay, there's no coming back from an intellectual hole like that. There's no coming back from the dearth of people who will say nothing, or I should say, the dearth of people who will say something in that situation. And that's what the left has become. It's become everything that we're not supposed to be. How in the world can the left be anti-free speech? How in the world can the left be anti-meritocracy, anti-equal opportunity? How can the left actually openly support racism against Asians in college admissions? It's crazy. It's crazy. Okay, it's not the liberalism that I was ever a part of. It's not the leftism that I was ever a part of. And people are saying that Dave red-pilled and Dave has gone right, Dave's gone conservative. I'm not conservative. I didn't vote for Trump, and I'm glad I didn't vote for Trump. But this is crazy. And if it's a choice that I have to make of siding with religious zealots who support freedom of speech and atheists who don't, I'm going with freedom of speech every day. I'm going with freedom of expression every day, because freedom of religion comes from freedom of expression every day. We have to fight for our freedoms, and unfortunately, it appears that we're going to have to fight our own, because our own just got stupid, and dangerously stupid. And I had I went to a convention just before COVID hit. It was run by a guy named Michael. Michael is a high up guy in, I believe it's the Southern Baptist Convention. Very religious guy, big churches, a couple churches. And he sat down with me, and we spoke about how wokeism has infected his church and is destroying his religion from the inside. And I talked to him about how wokeism was infecting or had infected my movement and was destroying my movement from the inside. And we hugged and we shed a tear together. We're on the same side now. Okay. I support his right to be wrong about religion. Okay. He supports mine too. The idea and what he said to me at the end of that meeting, it really stuck by me. And I think it's really profound. He said, I hope someday we have the privilege and the spare time and the luxury to argue about God again. He hopes someday that sometimes we have the luxury to argue whether God exists again, because we don't have that luxury anymore. That's a yesterday argument. That's not important. It really isn't. What is important is, do we have the right to freedom of speech? Do we have the right to freedom of expression? Do we all have personal responsibility? And do we judge people based on the color of their skin or the content of their character? And neither of us can believe that we have to fight, this asinine, stupid fight against asinine, stupid people we used to call friends, like Matt Dillahunty and Hemmant. It boggles me. It makes me feel good to some degree because they expelled me. And I mean, as painful as all that was, I'm really glad, really glad I'm not a part of that anymore. And I feel bad for everybody who's a part of it. And so the one thing that I want to make sure that I get through as we go through this future of ours, as whatever is about to happen happens, I hope the people in the center and on the left will not act like the leftists. And when the leftists expel without mercy, without forgiveness, and without redemption. And I think all of us who are not like that need to not be like that. We need to allow people to come back. We need to allow people to come to their senses. And we need to give them dignity when they do. I've been talking to, I've been arguing with a few people online. The one person who comes to mind right now is Brian Dalton, Mr. Deity, friend of mine, but he's crazy woke. And he's using every religious thing he could possibly do to throw at me. And he's formerly religious. I'm very confident that sooner or later he'll come to his senses and realize he's just found another religion. And when he does, he's got to come back to me with his head held somewhat high. He's got to be not shamed. He's got to be not thrown out of my life forever because he called me racist or because he thinks I'm bad for whatever. These people are, for lack of a better word, sick. For lack of a better word, they're infirmed by this meme of wokeness. And I mean, I hope they come back. And all I'm saying is that I hope that the people get better. I hope they get better. Okay. I hope they get better. And if they get better, we have to allow them to get better. And we have to allow them to come back with some lot of dignity, because if we don't do that, they'll stay there. We have to make it easy for them to leave wokeness. Okay. We have to not, because I mean, we have to be the opposite of the way they treat people who they expelled, right? If I wanted to go back to woke, I couldn't, because I would never be accepted back in. We have to be the opposite of that. We have to bring everybody back in. We have to be open. We have to be forgiving. We have to give mercy. We have to make it easy for them to come back.
I mean, David, you have encountered your last few years have been sort of the manifestation of that. You've done some great stuff throughout your life. You made a couple of mistakes. And there are two choices: to completely remove you from our society and outcast you, and you're the devil's incarnate, or you're just one of us who happened to make a couple of mistakes like we've all had in our lives, And all right, you weren't sort of like an asshole about it. You can't say like, hey, I've made a couple of mistakes. You know, we all do. Big
couple of
deal.
doozies.
I've
I never hurt
learned.
anybody.
Yes,
Right.
but you know, when does this stop? When can you come back to the fold and say, hey, I want to contribute again?
I can't. I can never come back. And it doesn't matter that the allegations against me have been discredited. It doesn't matter that one of the witnesses turned and said, yes, it was all a con. It doesn't matter because I cannot come back because, again, the way wokeness is rage-based, okay? But it's not rage on behalf of yourself. It's rage on behalf of other people. I rage against you because you said so. You wear that hat someday. That's offensive to minorities. I hate you for that now. Now that's an easy thing to do. The thing that's not easy to do is to forgive you for those people that I've just offended. Okay, if you say, "Oh, I take my hat off now, and now I'm better," well, I can't. It's not the same for me to say, okay, well, now I forgive you on behalf of all those people that you put down before, right? Because you're never talking about yourself. You're always talking about other people. So I can be enraged for them, but I can't forgive you for all those people. So you got to kind of take it up with them. So there is no mechanism. There can be no mechanism for return. That's what I'm saying. Because the rage is on behalf of other people, there cannot be forgiveness on behalf of other people. It cannot happen. And if you try, okay, what's going to happen if you try to forgive with on behalf of other people and one other person disagrees? Then you're out.
Yeah,
right.
But
you can't forgive. What are you speaking for them for? You're the so you can't.
Yeah.
So there's a fear there. So there's no mechanism for mercy, forgiveness, or redemption. There is a mechanism to prevent it.
Yeah, but you know, David, even Richard Christopher Hitchens often said, even sort of forgiveness is a little bit overrated. How about you said my hat is offensive? How about having a discussion about my hat? I need to ask you, why do you think my hat is offensive to you? And you let me have why I'm wearing it, why I think it should not be offensive to you. Let's have a conversation about the hat.
I think and that requires everybody take a big deep breath, put on their adult pants, and realize they could be wrong. They could be crazy, and they could be speaking out of turn when they say something's offensive for other people. In fact, nobody should say that anything is offensive to other people. You just shouldn't.
Yeah.
Let other people speak for themselves, right? I can imagine somebody saying, "Oh, that hat," somebody else saying, "Oh, that hat is offensive to Ashkenazi Jews. It's going to make David Silverman offended." And everybody like him. Don't you ever fucking say that about me. Don't you ever fucking speak for me like that. I will speak for myself because I'm a fully actualized adult and I'm capable of doing that. Just like everybody else, no matter what their race, no matter what their gender or expression. Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody can speak for themselves. And they do not need white guilt-laden liberals to take the white knight approach and declare racism all over the place.
Yeah. While we're chatting, there is a very interesting conversation happening in the chat between maybe some of your followers, Chad Woods and Get Real, and there's a conversation about Matt Dillahunty. So they're split. One perceive him to be probably a demon, and the other one is an angel. And what we're saying here, I actually did not like Matt Dillahunty's position on that sort of situation, but I might like his position on some other things. What people don't realize is that people are not black and white. Don't judge people by their worst mistakes or by their best actions. We're all sort of in and out of things. We do things. We're living dynamic creatures. So just keep the conversation going. I guess that's
Yeah, I mean, I've got pretty strong opinions about Matt. I've seen the very negative side of him, right? I hope I've seen the worst side of him. But there's just so much more important stuff to talk about. Personality conflicts in the atheist movement. Who gives a fuck? And I think I have personal opinions on him, but who gives a fuck? We have bad blood, Matt and me, and it's never going to be okay. And this show isn't about that, and I'm not going to bring the show down about that by shitting on them any more than I already have, frankly.
Yeah, I understand. There's a bit of a background story there, but
yeah, fuck it. We don't need to go there. I have to go past that shit.
You move on. Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of finished now, and it's not healthy to dwell on things anyway for anyone. You know, just you move on. I think we've got bigger fish to fry now with this.
It actually feels very cleansing to say that I don't want to talk about it and just to go forward, because I mean there's a lot of time to be wasted with that. Yeah. Right. There's a lot of time to be wasted on that.
Yeah, and it takes you back to that negative zone where you were, and you don't want you're past that now. You just
life is too short.
You want to look forward.
Life is too short. I'm past. I don't want to say I'm past all of it, but I'm a lot better. Yeah, you know what? It's hard to. I have some very good friends who have given me some very good advice, and they keep telling me to humanize Matt and humanize Beth and humanize, all the people who did what they did to me, and to try and see them as complicated people who are doing what they thought was best at the time. I'm having a lot of trouble with that. Okay. But you're right. I'm sure they're not, objectively evil people, right? I'm sure they're not, literally evil people who thought up the need to lie about me to bring me down because it's fun to be evil. Right. I'm sure there was something in their brain that thought that they were doing good in some sort of weird way. But you know what? It's been 3 years, and I have zero interest in any kind of association with them at all. I mean, I have zero interest in speaking about it, zero interest in spending any time on it at all.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's boring. It's boring. It's yesterday, and we have much more important stuff to talk about.
Yeah, well, the current situation, I think I probably want to, because I understand that you've got probably it's a Saturday night, and you love life,
my friend. You get one wine glass worth of time on these things.
All right, so we've got like another 5 or so, unless you call that. Right. So, I mean, I want to end now on a positive note, because not everyone on the prominent atheist movement is against Richard Dawkins or on the fence. Some people have actually jumped into sort of not defense really, but being on the right side of logic, in my opinion. Steven Pinker, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, the 2 English dudes from the genetically modified, Alex and the wonderful people.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, that's good. Yes, yeah, that's the young, because that is the young generation now. Listening to
that's interesting.
Alex O'Connor and Stephen Waldorf, and that's brilliant.
Oh, well, that's good. That's a positive sign.
Yes, but they also made, and they actually criticized Richard Dawkins for a couple of things, which is I agree with. Twitter is the worst way of expressing opinions.
Sure. And criticize everybody. Criticize Richard all you want. Criticize everybody all you want. That's fine. That's civil discourse. Good. Good. Let's do that. Let's do all that.
Exactly.
Do all the criticism.
Yeah. Don't cancel them. Don't say Richard Dawkins. Poof, you're gone. He's gone. Disappeared. Like that is horrible. That is so unhelpful to the world. I mean, the guy is a science contributor.
That's it, Hanney. It's these folks. They did harm to the movement, and they did harm to the world when you do shit like this to somebody with that kind of intellect. Okay, I mean. When I remember when I walked into, there was this, let's see, this probably was the first time I met Richard, probably was 2010, 2011. And I walked into a crowded room next to him. And the room hushed as he walked in. Okay. Happened again with Hitchens. Doesn't happen with anyone else. It's not going to. Because nobody else is going to have that kind. They split the movement. What? It's asinine. It's just
And David, you know what really upsets me so much as well? Richard Dawkins, if you engage with him and show him why he could be wrong using logic and good argumentation, he could have well changed his mind. Because when I read the tweet, the guy has not finally or ultimately made up his mind.
I've
The
done it.
keyword is discuss. He said,
I've
maybe
changed.
I'm not sure.
I've changed. I've changed Richard's mind on something. He's changed mine. This is how you learn. Okay, it's how you grow and you become stronger people. Okay, it's asinine. I mean, I'm saying it over and over again. It's just profoundly asinine what they have done. What AHA and AA have done is profoundly stupid on the most basic level. It is amateur. It is juvenile. It's childlike. I'm glad I'm out, and I'm glad we have Atheists for Liberty and Atheist Alliance International and Atheist Republic to pick up the slack for these organizations. And I'm glad we have YouTube channels like yours to keep the news flowing and keep the information flowing. And I think people need to keep their eye on the atheist movement, the new atheist movement, or I should say the new atheist movement, because we are going to be doing things over the next year to do some serious. This word keeps popping into my mind. It's productivity. It's actually accomplishing goals, setting goals and accomplishing them. You're not going to see, I suspect, any of that from the old guys, and I'm so sad to say it. It breaks my freaking heart to say that. I'll tell you, Hanney, to watch these organizations flail and flounder and wither.
Because I think David
gets satisfaction from that. I really don't get any happiness from that. To watch American atheists, the organization that spat me out, to watch them flounder and wither and do nothing for years, it doesn't make me happy.
No, it's not.
And to watch them cut ties with CFI and Richard Dawkins so that they can align themselves with far left and AHA for the AHA to do the same thing. It's
because, in my opinion, David, after seeing the last 20 years in terms of effort, by now I'm expecting heavyweight atheist movement changing legislations on the ground.
Dude, we had the opportunity. We had the opportunity. Don't think we didn't. We had power. We had growing power. Obama said, "End unbelievers," because of the atheist movement. Okay, we had a growing power. We had a non-believers congressional caucus. I don't know if it still exists, but if it does, it's all leftist. And we had relevance. We were in the news. We were part of the conversation. We're not even part of the conversation anymore. We've left our own conversation. It's asinine. It's ludicrous. It's bang your head against the desk stupid. They walked. They just put the baton down and walked away.
And David, I want to end with one little notion. I'm not sure if you contemplated this before. I'm not a right wing. I don't brand myself as anything. You give me a situation, I'll make up my mind based on the points you give me.
Yeah.
I've always had a problem with the left atheism, brand of atheism, because it does not stem from scientific inquiry. I mean, if you look at the old manifesto on Marx and all the writings of the original left ideas, they all stem from authority and the rejection of authority. So the foundation of rejecting God or rejecting a super being, to me, it's not based on the right foundations of rejecting such a notion. It's more about being rebellious and kumbaya. We want to get together as a human race and defeat that thing, rather than the proper scientific inquiry. if the notion of God, does such an entity really exist or not? Can we explore? Can we identify? That doesn't exist. It's almost like spirituality repackaged as science or reason. But for me, it was always a little bit more emotional rather than plea to reason and logic. What do you think? And I think Christopher Hitchens as well was very aware of that at some point.
Well, wait, give me that again. Tell me this again. Give me your.
So the main premise of the leftist movement, removing God, the writing of Marx, the writing of Lenin, all the original writing of the manifesto, they reject God being the ultimate authority. And humans should be always free and free from authority. That's how socialism started. So the rejection of God was based on the rejection of that ultimate authority, not on the basis of scientific inquiry, whether such things should be entertained. Can we actually explore the existence of God or not? It was based on being rebellious, like the old Christopher Hitchens.
No, it was based on making the state the authority. It was based on replacing the authority of the church with the authority of the state.
Eventually,
the state became a religion. So I mean, when I went to China, I went to China 3 times on my book tour, and people would talk about Mao Zedong like he was a deity. It's about skepticism. But I think the communists took religion away. Mao Zedong said religion is the opiate of the masses. Religion is the enemy of the people, because he wanted worship, and that's what he got. He got almost godlike worship. So I think when you and Stalin was the same way. And so I think if we look at that, I think it maybe have been guised as that, which is what we're seeing on the left, right? We're seeing that on the left right now. We're seeing, we're power to the people, without actually realizing that it's power to the state, because power to the people implies power to the state, because it's the state who dictates where the power goes. So no, I don't agree with your premise that it's about recklessness. I believe the far leftist, is about authoritarianism. And I think that's what we're seeing now. I think that's why so many people on the right are screaming communism when they look at the left, because it's the same stuff.
No, I actually agree. I agree with you, David.
I mean, how do you have a society? Okay, think about it. How do you have a society? If you have a society where one of the races is not performing like the rest of them, but you're not going to solve the problem of why, you're going to pretend it's all about racism, right? And so the actual problems are never going to be addressed. So how is that actually going to be fixed? How are we going to fix systemic racism if the evidence for systemic racism is inequity, and the cause of the inequity is never going to be addressed? How are we going to do that? Well, the only way to do that is to put people in jobs according to their race. Okay, and so to make sure that 50% of or X% of marketers are X race, etc. So the only way you do that is through a communistic system where the government runs employment. This is what they're supporting, apparently, and it's very, very scary to see that. At least that's what the right is saying. I'm not sure I buy into that all the way, but it's very scary to see when you look at how during the Red Revolt, during the Red Revolution, children turned in their parents and their teachers for being not communist enough, and their children were taught up as heroes for turning in their parents. And we're seeing those kind of things now.
Yeah,
children turning in their parents for voting Republican, children turning in their parents for going to the Trump rally in Washington, D.C. It's
George Orwell all over. Yeah,
I sell insurance now, and I sell insurance for a couple of reasons. But one of the reasons I like selling insurance, I sell Aflac and I sell Medicare. is that I can't be canceled. I can't be canceled. I can say what I want. I can never be canceled again. I can never be fired. All of my clients are mine. And that gives me the opportunity to come on these shows and speak my mind. And a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people can't even say things like this anymore because, and there's nothing that I'm saying that's hateful. I'm not saying anything from a hateful place. I'm not saying anything from a bigoted place. Everything I say is from a partnership perspective. We're all equal partners on this planet. We all are equal citizens in this country, and we all have equal responsibility. And, you know, I've had a lot of partnerships, or a few partnerships. And, you know, one thing that partners do, they call each other on their shit. They do. They call each other on their shit. I mean, if you got a partner, you're not going to say, oh, my partner is never full of shit. If you've got a partner that's never full of shit, you're wrong. Okay. Your partner is sometimes full of shit. And if you're a good partner, sometimes you call your partner on being full of shit. And so if the African-American community is having its own problems and it's pointing its fingers outside of themselves and calling racism, it's okay for us to call them on their shit as partners, because that's what we are.
Yes.
That's what we are. They don't get to call us racists and have impunity, just like I don't get to call them anti-Semites and have impunity, and blame all my problems on the blacks stopping me from succeeding because they're anti-Semites. It's ridiculous. Well, unless it's real. If it's real, I'm going to have to bring my data. And if I can bring my data, then the African-American community would have to do something about it, because that would be their responsibility. And so if the African-American community give me some data, then it's absolutely on us to fix it, right? Show me systemic racism. We will defeat it together. But to show me inequity and say that's systemic racism, it's racism of the gaps. It's exactly the same as looking at a rainbow and say, that's God. No. It's not God. You're just calling it God. There's actually a lot of reasons why that rainbow exists. There's actually a lot of reasons why inequity exists and non-performance in the African-American community exists. And we ought to address those instead of pretending that it's a great big God making it happen. It's called,
you know, David, one of the things, I mean, and I probably we should end up with that, because I know you probably have party plans, but the way to stop systemic or even racism as a notion is not by telling people off. It's like, if you do that, you go to jail, or you're gonna lose your job. That's not how you change people's minds. You can actually go to the root of the problem. Why do you think a black person is more inferior than you? Let's discuss. Let's have a chat about that. Let's change them from inside, so they do the right thing when nobody's watching.
Bring the data. Bring the data. Search for truth via data. Come on, folks. We know how to do this. You know how to be. You know how to skeptic. Okay. You know how to do this. Try and prove yourself wrong and fail, and that's how you know you're right. It's a pretty good way to do it. Try to prove yourself wrong and fail, and that's how you know you're right. That's skepticism.
Yeah.
Annie, I am exhausted and I'm going to go, but I want to thank you for having me on the show. I did 99% of the talking, so I'm sorry about that, or I guess you're welcome.
No, I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
My channel is Firebrand for Good. My Twitter handle is Mr. Atheist Pants, and I sell Medicare and I sell Aflac. If you need Medicare or Aflac, you can send me a tweet at Mr. Atheist Pants, or go on my channel Firebrand for Good and send me a question and you can send me an email from there. But also support the new atheist movement, the new blooming atheist movement, Atheist for Liberty, Atheist Alliance International, and Atheist Republic. Hanney, I really recommend you have Thomas Sheedy on here. I think you're going to be really happy that you did. And the one thing that I would like to just leave in passing thought is that on-ramp. I would like to restate, there's a lot of people that hate people like us right now for wrong reasons, stupid reasons, offensive reasons. They're damaged by wokeness. Hopefully they'll get better. Keep an open mind. Let them come home. Let them come back to you. Let them come back to your family. Let them come back to your friends. Don't be like them and eschew them forever and shut the door just because they've shut the door on you because they think you're racist today. And with that, I'm going to go get some coffee and some dinner.
Thank you very much, James, for being on the show for, I think, third time. And hopefully I'll see you again in the next few weeks.
Absolutely.
Bye, everyone.
Always a pleasure. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks, David.
All right. Bye.